Hello, my name is Colin McMichael and I'm the Education Coordinator at TreeFolks. Today I'm going to be talking to you about our carbon credit generation. TreeFolks produces carbon credits to help offset carbon footprints across Central Texas. Today I'm going to be giving a very light overview on climate change and the carbon economy, and that's going to be followed by more information on city forest credits, Carbon Plus credit that TreeFolks produces through the Central Texas Floodplain Reforestation program, and finally we'll wrap it up with a brief discussion of the state of carbon neutrality in Central Texas. So to get started, you first have to understand the basics of anthropogenic climate change. Anthropogenic just means caused by people, and climate change as a phrase is relatively straightforward. The climate is changing. But how? Since the Industrial Revolution, people have been burning fuel on, an industrial scale. Burning fuel like wood, coal, oil, or gas releases CO2 into the atmosphere. With increasing CO2 levels in the atmosphere, the sun's energy doesn't escape into space as with lower levels, resulting in a buildup of solar energy. Energy is synonymous with heat in this scenario, so on a whole, the Earth's atmosphere is heating up. This can cause chaotic weather because more energy in a system creates larger temperature swings, stronger winds, and more rain. Now that we have been burning fuel for energy for a while, we are beginning to see the effects of climate change through larger tornadoes, wetter hurricanes, and stronger winter storms. People have begun to take notice, and there are efforts underway to address these issues, namely the buying and selling of carbon credits, or the so-called carbon economy. The carbon economy is a system that attempts to keep any more carbon from entering the atmosphere. Honestly, if enough people reduced carbon, they could potentially reduce carbon from the atmosphere, but no one is really currently that ambitious with carbon credits. Getting people to stop producing excess carbon is really step one here. The way the carbon economy works is that there are actions that produce carbon, generally things that burn fuel, and actions that reduce carbon, generally things that allow plants to grow or actively remove carbon from power plant smokestacks. The idea is that these things should balance out if we don't want to worsen climate change. To do that, carbon producers track the amount of carbon that they produce. This is their carbon footprint. Carbon reducers also track the carbon, but the amount of carbon they reduce or remove from the atmosphere. These are their carbon credits. Carbon producers can then purchase carbon credits from carbon reducers, so the net carbon added or removed becomes zero. The reducers are then compensated for their work, and the producers can continue to emit carbon. But there is one group in the carbon economy that I failed to mention in the last slide, and that's the carbon registries. Carbon registries are basically independent organizations that verify and certify that carbon reductions have taken place. This is done through various means depending on the carbon reduction project. Registration of a carbon reduction project is what results in carbon credits getting issued to the carbon reducer. Carbon registries also often assist with the sale of carbon credits to carbon producers as well. TreeFolks specifically works with the carbon registry City Forest Credits. City Forest Credits is an amazing nonprofit based in Seattle, Washington. They only certify carbon reduction projects in urban areas, and to my knowledge are the only registry that does that. Most carbon reduction projects are done in rural areas, but doing them in urban areas allows for the co-benefits of these projects to be felt by more people. The carbon reduction project City Forest Credits registers are planting projects and preservation projects. They will register single trees, groups of trees, or large swaths of land that have been reforested, and ditto for preservation projects. City Forest Credits has based all their protocols on a very impressive set of scientific data and parametric equations. Essentially, scientists have modeled how trees grow and used these models to figure out how much carbon these trees are made of, how much pollution they reduce from the atmosphere, how much runoff they intercept, and how much money they save nearby people on heating and cooling costs. It is extremely technical on the back end, but on the user side, it's easy as plugging in some numbers to a spreadsheet and getting the quantities posted in a table. All in all, these additional built-in assessments, tacked on top of what was already a verified carbon credit, raises the value of carbon plus credits above what one would normally pay for carbon credits, by up to 1/3. And carbon producers really like them because they have demonstrable co-benefits with real-world effects. When TreeFolks found out about city forest credits and the Carbon Plus credits, we knew it was the right fit for us. We had an ongoing reforestation work in town and quickly developed a very small pilot program which eventually grew to be the Travis County Floodplain Reforestation Program, after we secured grant funding from a Natural Climate Solutions Accelerator grant from the Nature Conservancy and the Doris Duke Charitable Foundation. That program, the TCFRP, focused on eastern Travis County and was extremely effective. Now it has grown to encompass the surrounding 6-county area as Central Texas Floodplain Reforestation Program, and generally reforests nearly 60 acres a year with native tree saplings. The vast majority of plantings are done by professional planting crews from Superior Forestry, but we do a fair number of volunteer-driven events as well. Each acre reforested gets registered with city forest credits and begins producing the 106.7 carbon credits we expect from it. These credits are forwarded because it takes 25 years to achieve that amount of sequestration. Forwarding credits allows for additional work. Because the credits get forwarded, the sites are under observation and scrutiny to make sure they continued growing as expected. This is generally carried out through aerial photographs, on-the-ground observations, and satellite imagery. Luckily, riparian land left fallow will naturally grow a forest here, so that is accepted as a given. TreeFolks, however, improves upon what would normally regenerate by adding more desirable, longer-lived hardwoods and forest obligates that take decades to recruit to the site. 25 years after a TreeFolks planting, a site will have a significantly higher diversity and resiliency than a 25-year-old fallow site. So how does this program actually work? Well, first the landowners have to sign up. It's as easy as going to our website and filling out a form. Once that happens, landowners get a complimentary consultation in which our reforestation team will meet with them on their site, discuss the ecological, hydrological, and project concerns. Afterwards, landowners sign the paperwork and the reforestation team is back a month or so later to survey and flag the site for planting. Once flagged, the planting crew comes in with curated saplings and plants them in the ground. Then, through sheer neglect and perseverance, the saplings grow and you get a forest. That does require a cessation of any land use practices that would prevent a forest, however, such as cattle grazing, mowing, or herbicide applications. At the end of the season, TreeFolks registers the projects with city forest credits and gets the first issuance of forwarded credits. And each one of those credits represents a single metric ton of carbon that's been reduced from the atmosphere. The credits generated are donated to TreeFolks by the landowners and as a part of the initial agreement for the work. Then TreeFolks sells the credits to the carbon producers and uses the profit to plant more trees. So carbon neutrality is a word on everyone's lips, and rightly so. It's really hard to be carbon neutral, especially for big entities and that do any transportation or construction or manufacturing. Honestly, TreeFolks cannot produce enough credits to meet demand. There just isn't enough land to reforest or enough trees to put in the ground. The city of Austin alone has an incredible carbon footprint. The city of Austin's Office of Sustainability does buy from TreeFolks, but we are only able to produce a drop when they need more, like a torrent. Local architecture firm DWG has also purchased credits from TreeFolks, and other groups like Austin International Airport and Circuit of the Americas have expressed interest as well. But to meet these demands, TreeFolks needs to be able to find new sources for saplings. We routinely buy out all suitable species in the state. But even down that avenue, TreeFolks is eyeing growth potential. Reforestation and carbon credit generation are two of the major programming aspects of TreeFolks and will continue to be so, hopefully, for many years to come. It's TreeFolks' dream that every creek feeding Austin will have a healthy riparian canopy and healthy waters. And that's all I have today on carbon credit generation, so if you have any questions, please email me at education@treefolks.org. And if you enjoyed this talk, please see the rest of our UFS programming online.